This is breaking news. Welcome. Today's story, we're going to discuss the review of Tasha K surviving with Jaguar Wright interview that was on Patreon. Tasha K started the interview with Jamie and Crystal. On the bottom of the screen, it said they were both cousins. But at times, Jamie was referred to as the niece. Now, most of what these ladies says, I take it with a grain of salt. I don't believe they're telling the complete truth. And I am not a Jaguar Wright fan. But the truth is the truth. They had so many bad things to say about Jaguar. It makes you wonder if it's really true or not. You don't have one nice thing to say about your family? I mean, even her husband, Mr. Sam, said a few nice things about Jaguar. And he made it clear that he was not coming on Tasha's interview to bash Jag. Now back to the nieces or the cousins. I'm all confused on their relationships because Jamie also referred to Jaguar's children as her brothers. My first issues with these ladies is when Tasha K asked them if Jaguar's son was autistic. Their definition of autism is if a person can't speak or respond. So in their opinion, Jaguar's son is not autistic. And that simply is not true. I'm glad to know a lot of people have interest in autism. But you need to Google it and learn what it is. The child could be mild, which is highly functioning, and when they grow up to be an adult, they can function normally. There's some adults that don't even realize that they have autism because back in the day, this wasn't even thought of. Moderate, they can also be rehabilitated with therapy. Severe, they require a lot more therapy, a lot more assistance, and yes, sometimes in severe cases, they can't talk. Sometimes they can't walk. And profound is basically they're like an infant. So these ladies, that's already a ding to me. At any rate, it seems like it is consistent that this child has not been, well, shall I say young man, has not ever been diagnosed of autism. So why it keeps coming up, I have no idea. But for people who live with this disease, this is a little bit irritating. Now, another thing that I had an issue with these ladies is talking about SSI check. I don't know what country these ladies are from, but do they know the U.S. government don't want to give us nothing? Like, you really have to prove that you're disabled. And they don't just give checks to kids when their parents is making so much money a year. Also, Jag's husband said that he filed income tax with Jags and they owed $91,000 in income tax. If you owe the government $91,000 in income tax, you make too much money for an SSI check. People need to be educated or educate themselves. Then they talked about Jag's mama's pension. Apparently, she was a school teacher for over 25 years. One person says 25 years of the cousins, and then Mr. Sam, he said 30 years. Either way, it was a lot of years. and she earned a pension. And apparently, they're saying Jag is taking her money and living off of it. Jag cannot live off of her mama's pension without her mama's permission, and her mama is still alive and in her right mind. Tasha K said she called Jag mom, and Jag mom said everything was fine. Anywho, it seemed like these ladies have an ulterior motive of bashing Jag. Apparently, they're a little salty because Jag is going around saying that Jamie's father slept with Jag. Not slept with, excuse me. Sexually assaulted Jag, allegedly. Jamie herself said when she heard that rumor, she was done with Jag. So why is she on the screen talking to Tasha K when she has no interaction with Jag? Neither does the other cousin, Crystal. Then Tasha K brought Mr. Sam back on with a continuation of his interview. She tried to talk about Jag going to McDonald's and not being able to buy an Egg McMuffin for $1, that her card was declined 4 times. My thing with this is, Tasha K, I don't know if you have never had a card decline, but a lot of us in America have. Okay? So, people get things out your checking account all the time. My savings account is not directly hitched to my checking account, or I wouldn't have no money. So why you keep beating this up in the ground? Mr. Sam told Tasha K he doesn't know why she couldn't buy Egg McMuffin or why her card was declining. He was not going to bash her or talk ill about her because of her financial situation. Which makes perfect sense. Why would he bash the mother of his child? Real men don't do that. He said his reasons for coming on Tasha K's interview was because of what she said about their son being autistic. Also, his concern was that her mother was about to be evicted, and he had to go around to stores searching for insulin syringes so her mother can take insulin. She was using the same insulin syringe for a whole month, to the point to where it broke off in her skin. He said he couldn't get the syringes because he didn't have a prescription. Now, that I know for a fact is true. You can't just buy hypodermic needles at the store without a prescription. Now, if he would have brought the insulin to the store, chances are they would have gave him a few because they would have had the prescription. The reason why I mention this is because it shows validation of his stories, unlike those other 2 cousins. There was talk about Jaguar mother being mentally ill, schizophrenia. Then there was talk about the father, in fact, was the one being schizophrenia. Either way, if mental illness was documented in her history, her family history, then maybe she's having some issues. She admitted to having mental issues. Now, Tasha K, you should not talk down to people because of their financial status. It's a blessing. It's wonderful that God has blessed you and put you in the financial situation that you're in. But everyone is not as privileged as you. I know you work hard, but other people work hard and they still won't make as much as you do. I think you need to use moments like this to bring sisters and brothers up, not tear them down. Now, the next interviewee was Tina Odom. That is Jaguar ex-mother-in-law, which is Mr. Sam's mother. And apparently they had an incident at Miss Tina's house to where words were exchanged and Jaguar took the phone from Miss Odom. We saw the videos from Jack's phone as well as Miss Odom's phone. But it's very clearly Jack assaulted her. She grabbed the phone from Miss Tina. Miss Tina called the police. Jack called the police. Jack, you're wrong for that. This brought me to tears. Jack, how could you hit that old lady? She's an elder. She can't fight you. She don't have the power or the strength. How could you sit up there and bully that lady and grab her phone? I don't blame her for calling the police. But you should have went to jail. But God sit high and he looks low, and trust what I say. You're gonna pay for what you did to that lady. In conclusion, part 1 was better than part 2. Part 2 was a little misleading. And when Tasha K said part 2 would tie everything up, I think that means they were going to push a narrative. And they mainly did it with those 2 cousins whose statements was unfounded. The only credible interviewees on part 2 was Miss Tina Odom and Mr. Sam. I think part 1 and part 2 basically just shows that Jaguar is human. We can't throw stones at Jaguar. We all have a past. We all have a history. We've lied. And we've done other things that's not even spoken of. Now, Jaguar is a good storyteller, and she's very entertaining. However, some of her stories are fabricated, embellished, and a little exaggerated. But there's some truth in there. You just have to use your best judgment and your common sense and throw out the bad stuff and keep the truth. Now, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.